I just want to remind you about when we're talking in our science talks that we have our eyes on the speaker. One person talks at a time. Let's try to stay on one topic, so we'll try and finish everybody's thoughts. I didn't add our new one that we talked about yesterday in our class meeting, which was, if we're not sure about what someone is trying to say, if we don't understand it, that we react in a scientific, respectful way, which would be to say, can you tell us more? Or how? Or why? Instead of laughing, right? You solved that problem. Thank you. Okay. And don't forget, if you would like to add on, you could say, I'd like to add on. If you had more data than maybe somebody else had shared. Okay. So let's just talk about our first question. What natural objects did you see in the night sky?
I saw Venus. It was near the moon while I was looking up, and lots of stars. But this was on Tuesday. Actually, I didn't really see any stars.
On Monday, I saw two stars and stuff.
Before we leave the topic of what JJ just said, is there anybody that would like to add on?
I also saw a cuboid. That really looked like a really bright star from here.
And so, I just have a question. JJ and Jasmine, when you're saying that you saw Venus and Jupiter, I mean, how did you make that conclusion? What evidence did you have?
Well, since my mom teaches, she told me one of the stars that I saw, I thought it was a space star, but it was like close to the moon, like under it, and it was Venus. But I couldn't entirely see the whole thing. I could only see it as like a small star, but it looked like a small star at least.
I had this app on his phone.
Hold on, Jasmine. Thank you. Can you see? I realized I was blocking.
It's like he points the camera at some of the stars, and you can see the constellations and the planets.
Did everyone hear where she said that she had learned that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Love technology, huh? Yeah, there's this really cool app you can use for your phones or your tablets, right? So, interesting. That's changed a little bit from what we had said on, I think, Tuesday in our discussion. We thought that was a star. And JJ had pointed out that it looked so small, which is why he thought it was a star. What else?
My mom teaches. She told me that was actually Venus.
I saw a really bright star that just kept blinking on and off.
There's a plane.
No, it wasn't red and blue. And how come it wasn't moving?
So you continue to observe.
Star. I saw a lot of bright stars on this beach.
Okay. So we have stars, we have planets.
Constellation.
I saw two constellations in the sky. I saw the Orion and Leo because I had this paper.
Can you wait for just a minute? It's just because we're scientists and we want to continue to talk.
I had a paper at Science Lab. It shows constellations, and I saw the eastern horizon, and it had Leo. Then I checked the other one, and it had Orion.
So interesting, 3 people, 3 different ways of finding out information too, right? It sounds like you had a resource coming from Science Lab. Jasmine's resource was the app, and JJ's resource was an adult. Right? Yeah, a little more maybe of an expert. I don't know. Not all adults are more experts than our student scientists, huh? So before we move on to the next question, we have planets, stars, constellations. I'm just writing some of our thinking so I can chart at a different time, okay? And anything else in the night sky? Natural?
I saw
Alina, what it...
constellation.
Hold it. Maybe... Remember the other thing that we're kind of focusing on is if someone hasn't had a chance to share, let's give... So we can hear more voices, right?
I saw the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, but the thing was that it wasn't. Mrs. Landis said that it was going to be on top of each other, but it was actually on the right.
Maybe you saw from a different direction.
I would just say, yeah, the natural question would be why? So maybe I could write that question.
I also saw the North Star, but it was very, very light.
Okay. A final thought, Malia? Thank you, Malia, for waiting.
I also think the Orion constellation, and I saw it, so I looked at it, and then I looked it up and then I saw different answers.
Another resource on the internet. Yeah. I know on Tuesday I had to look up on the internet as well because it was so cloudy, huh?
I saw the long row of pink and purple clouds.
Because sometimes the sun comes down and changes the sky's colors.
Yep.
Yeah, and I had heard waxing moon. In their discussion, waxing moon had talked a lot about the times that they had observed, and gibbous moon. Somebody at gibbous moon had said yes, because they were, I don't know, maybe Evie, could you share a little bit about, you were seeing, I heard you say yes, but you were observing at different time.
Because JJ saw Venus and none of us saw Venus, and Leo later we didn't think that there was Venus out there, but then I looked at JJ's time. I saw...
So asking, maybe you had asked a question? Yeah, and that's another important reason why we include time in our science observations and in our notebooks, right? Time played a huge difference because going out, was it earlier or later? Interesting, yeah. So what about, so it sounds like we've already started talking a little bit about what changes have we noticed. But let's kind of talk about maybe together those last two questions. What changes did you notice maybe with the moon? Let's have our discussion a little bit about what we noticed about the moon. Christian?
They got fatter every day.
Now, interesting is another team. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Like, on Monday, it was like a really fat banana. Guy. And then it went half, and it went sort of like that, and then it was almost full.
So would you say it's getting bigger or smaller?
Bigger. Like, it was really fatter every day. I was looking at...
And what was when you use the word it, can you... Thank you. Well, we just have some voices we haven't heard from yet, okay?
Okay. Well, it's mostly the time that changes because on Monday, I think I went out 5:53. The moon was sort of blurry, and I looked out from the blinds and I couldn't really see it, but I could see a little bit. And on Tuesday, it was sort of the same thing, but only I could see a little bit more.
A little bit more of...
The moon.
Okay. And when you say it's blurry, well, what about the rest of the week first?
And also Wednesday and Thursday, it was more clear, but there was a lot of trees that were in front of the moon.
Yeah, so, yeah, we call those variables in science, that sometimes having that space, especially to do the night sky observations, that, maybe to have that a little more open space if you can, huh? So why do you think it was blurry? Did you think about that?
I don't know.
Maybe it's because.
Can you say that a little louder?
Maybe it's because.
Or maybe it was just too early.
What, can you tell us more? What do you mean by too early? Wait, can you say it loud enough so they could hear?
Because at 5:30 I checked the sun, it was almost sunset, but then I checked again at 6:10, then I saw like the sky got blacker.
Okay. So I'm going to just ask that question. I think that was pretty interesting. Somebody thought fog, somebody thought maybe the time of the day made it a difference, right? So what other changes did you notice? Christian said it got fatter. Natalie said that some days were blurry. Brianna?
I saw 2 quarter moons. I actually saw 2 quarter moons, actually 3 quarter moons, and 1 gibbous moon. It was weird because
So tell us a little, 2 quarter moons.
Yeah.
So what, were they in the same day? I'm just kidding. Tell us a little bit more. What were the 2 quarter moons? And then you used a word most of us aren't sure about yet. When were the 2 quarter moons?
they were on
Do you remember?
Monday and Tuesday.
So Monday and Tuesday, they were the 2 quarter moons. Does everybody agree with that? Or is there anybody saw something different?
I only saw something a little
Okay.
different.
Okay. So we saw 2 quarter moons where... Thank you. 2 quarter moons. And we had talked on Tuesday already about how it looked a little bigger. Maybe just a little. Some people didn't observe that it was bigger. And then what did you notice?
I noticed that yesterday I saw it was a gibbous moon.
And what is this word gibbous?
It's like,
Can you describe what you're seeing? Because a lot of people haven't heard that word before.
because it was like a little curvy.
A little curvy. Yeah, and gibbous means that it's kind of got a hump on it, right? It's like a little swollen. And I actually have a picture here for you. So on Monday and Tuesday, this is the 1st quarter moon.
I saw that.
So this is what it looked like. Maybe not exactly on Tuesday, but by last night for sure. Sorry. So, final thinking here. If we think back to our focus question, what have you learned about the shape of the moon? Brittany, say it.
That it changes each day.
It changes each day. Yeah, it's changing each day. You also, when I talked with you, you used a word that it has.
That it has
That the moon has different, remember, phases. Yeah, that the moon has different phases. And yeah, we were in 1st quarter, and now we're into what kind of gibbous? Everybody? Waxing gibbous. Right. Notice that our team, we don't have a team name called 2nd quarter. Right? Yeah, that's because we call it a gibbous. And so how does the shape of the moon change? That it changes every day. That's what we said, right? Anybody want to add on or say something a little different?
I saw the waxing moon and kind of when it got bigger, there's like a little bit more spots coming up.
So you were able to observe a little bit more of the moon because it's brighter, right? It's more, yeah, it's more visible. Brandon, you said something to me also. You said, well, actually,
The moon's shape always stays the same, but you could only see certain parts of it on certain days.
so what he's saying is actually that the shape of the moon isn't changing.
It's just what you could see is changing.
It's just what we can see that's changing. I thought that was a pretty, he was kind of clarifying our focus question and making, he wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the shape of the moon stays the same. Thank you, Brandon. So, we're going to continue. Oh, Ulysses has a final thought.
I noticed that mostly every night. If you look really closely, you could see a bunny in the moon.
You can. I guess I know what everyone's going to do tonight. Can you explain it?
How if you look really close, you could see a bunny head, 2 bunny ears. It's like upside down.
Can you see it in here? No, I'm sorry. You might be able to. I was just wondering if Ulysses was able to see in this picture what you were noticing.
You could see it more better if you just look at the moon directly at it.
Okay. So maybe this photograph is a little bit too zoomed in, too close. Okay. Yeah. Well, I definitely am going to go out tonight and see if I can observe a bunny in there. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Just a question, and it might have to be a lingering question till we have more data. Were there any other changes in the moon that you observed?
No.
You saw what? So right now we're noticing that what is visible at this right now, all we've observed is that it is increasing, right? That the shape of the moon's the same, that what we're seeing, what's visible, is increasing. That the sun is illuminating the moon a little bit more. Okay. So, will you do me a favor? And if you could just look over here at my notebook, although I don't have my thinking written here. Some of you did draw science sketches in your notebook, and which means that you might not have enough space for what I'm about to show you. You could just use the back, and we'll get the notebook set up, no problem. So, in your notebook, I'm going to ask you, after your sentences and thinking about the focus question, that you're going to draw a line under wherever your writing stopped. This is called a line of learning. It means new learning happened. So, you have your own thinking before our class discussion. Now, after our class discussion, you're just going to write about your new thinking. You might have confirmed your thinking. For example, some of you might have been thinking, I wonder if that's a planet. And now, through the discussion with what Jasmine and JJ had said, maybe you can think, you know what? I've now learned that we can see planets also in the sky. So maybe I'm going to write that. Now I'm thinking, or now I've learned, either one. We can see some planets. And I'm going to write night sky because that is what our data is from. We've observed it in the night sky. I might have to do a little bit more research to see if any of this, we can see any planets in the day sky.
Can we also research?
Say it louder, please.
Could we also research ourselves?
Please, and that was going to be, yes, absolutely. That was going to be one of my kind of questions, or I don't want to say challenges because that's not it. But yeah, on the way out today, I was going to write up some of the questions that we had in observation. So over the weekend, you can do research either on the internet with your families or more observing. You can also write questions here. So Natalie had just said, can we do more research? Well, research normally starts with questions. So here's a perfect place to also put some of your wonderings or questions that you have now that we've had our discussion. Thank you for being patient. Okay? All right. And I'll be walking around. I know this part's new. I'll help you. It's okay. Why don't you just go and you could solve that problem. You can go just put it in the sink. Thank you. I thank you for being patient, but that comes first. All right. Could somebody please tell me when we leave the carpet? Hold on. Have a seat where I know we're getting ready. We just can't wait to go write in our notebook. Please settle back in. Thank you. Who can repeat what you're doing when you leave the carpet? Who can repeat it? Yeah, Christian, say it. Tell them, not me, tell them, really loud.
You're supposed to draw a line after you where you stopped writing, and then you're supposed to write what you learned, like if you saw something and then it was actually a planet, like a star.
Yeah, or any other learning. That was my learning. You get to write yours. All right? Waxing. Increasing. You could stretch while you do that one.